the Southern 500 for NASCAR Grand National Stock Cars. This oldest of the superspeedways has earned the reputation as being the toughest to drive. And all the top drivers are here. Current point and money leader, Darrell Waltrip. The winningest driver of them all, Richard Petty. The Allison brothers, Johnny on the outside of row 1. And Bobby, the pole sitter with a record-setting 154-mile-an-hour average. By the way, the cars are moving out for the parade lap of the Southern 500. 40 cars in all, 20 rows of 2. And that sound of finely tuned engines is music to the ears of the some 90,000 stock car fans who have come here to watch this one. Hi, I'm Bill Fleming. Today we are celebrating a birthday here at the Darlington Raceway in Darlington, South Carolina. This is the 30th birthday of the running of the Southern 500, making it the oldest major stock car race in the entire world. And just to give you an idea of how old it is, the pole sitter today, Bobby Allison, was only 11 years old when Johnny Mance won this race back in 1950. Darrell Waltrip was only 2, and he has won 7 superspeedway races this year. And in fact, Cale Yarborough, who has won the Southern 500 4 times more than anybody else, was only 8. So it gives you a little more respect for this granddaddy of all of the stock car races in the world. I think one thing is true, too. Of all the great drivers who have driven here, they all admit that if you can win at Darlington, you, sir, are a race driver. To get an opinion on that is the former world race driving champion himself, Jackie Stewart. Jack, what do you think?
Well, Bill, I certainly agree with you, and I agree with the drivers. As a racing driver myself, I remember racing in places like the Nürburgring, for example, where there's only 13 laps in the race. Here, there are 367. In my race, there was only 28 runners. Here, there are 40. Very crowded round this track.
And the cars are coming down for the end of the parade lap. We'll have one more pace lap. Perhaps the toughest spot to be in when the green flag is thrown is outside of row 1. That's where Donnie Allison is. Earlier, Jackie Stewart asked Donnie how he'll start the race, particularly with brother Bobby right next to him.
It's kind of a ticklish situation, especially here at Darlington, because the racetrack's so narrow. I'm going to try to beat him in the first turn. I don't know whether I can or not. If I can't, well, you know, I'm just going to have to try to keep getting run over, I guess. But I really don't like it much outside because of the first turn. But, you know, somebody's got to be there, and I'm just going to make the best of it.
But if it were not your brother, would it be, Donnie, as much of a charge? Let's say if it were another driver, would you be more aggressive with another driver than you're going to be with Bobby?
Well, I don't know. You know, Bobby and I have had some awful strong races, and, you know, I would worry a little more if it was somebody else about getting run into. But I don't know. I know Bobby wants to lead the first lap, and I know I want to lead the first lap, and so it's going to be pretty interesting, I'm sure.
One thing is certain, this is the richest Southern 500 in history. The purse is over $250,000. So it's the Allison brothers in row number 1. In row 2, it'll be Darrell Waltrip in car number 88. Next to him, Richard Petty in 43. Then David Pearson in 2, and Bill Elliott, a surprise starter up there so far, number 17. Rookie Harry Gann in 47 is in row 4. Dick Brooks next to him. Neil Bonnet, 21. Buddy Baker in row 5. Then number 11, Cale Yarborough, the defending Southern 500 champion, in row 6. Next to him is Joe Milliken, the candidate for Rookie of the Year award in car number 72. And as the cars come around, it's Benny Parsons, Ricky Rudd, Lenny Pron, Jerry Labonte, and it looks like we are going to get a green flag. Everybody standing down the home straightaway, and we've got to start. Donnie Allison edges ahead of Bobby Allison, and the Southern 500 is underway, and Donnie goes right into that first turn ahead of older brother Bobby.
Really anticipating the flag there. The dark red car you can see there right in the middle of the groove with brother Bobby right in his hoops there in car number 15, the white car, as they go down into this back straight here, an absolutely capacity crowd. Then he tries to take him on the inside, but not this lap.
And Darrell Waltrip is hanging on to third place. Richard Petty right behind him. But it's the Allison brothers setting the torrid pace here as they come around. It's Donnie Allison in front at the end of the first lap. Then Darrell Waltrip edging up on Bobby. Richard Petty behind him. Then David Pearson and Bill Elliott from Dawsonville, Georgia. The young 23-year-old surprised everybody by starting up so high. Out of turn 2 and down the backstretch. All 40 cars running here. And a long, hot afternoon. Track temperatures well above 130 degrees.
brothers down here, great favourites, of course, real southern boys, as they've been great favourites from the crowd for many, many years. Donnie Allison, never having quite the success that his brother Bobby has had, but still great charger, one of the fastest drivers on the racetrack.
Donnie Allison still looking for his first win on the Grand National Circuit this year. Bobby Allison won at Riverside, but then during the last 6 races has had some tough luck. So he would welcome a victory here, and ooh, how close to the wall Bobby came on that one. Not very wide. The racing groove here at Darlington is only 30 feet wide.
Very narrow indeed. You've got to be very accurate. These big cars, they sort of wallow around. They're on that high banking there as they go around. They're glued to the surface. Of course, the G-forces gluing them in. Tremendous fatigue in this racetrack also. The drivers have got to pace themselves very well. Now, Donnie Allison seems to have taken a little bit of a lead there. Of course, when it's this close motor racing, just a little breath of a mistake by one of the drivers. And look how quickly, just there, Bobby Allison closed his brother there. Obviously, Donnie made a slight error because Bobby was trying to slingshot him there as they came into the front stretch. Just a slight error of judgment, just the car scrubbing off a little bit of speed, and somebody's going to pass you, particularly in a short track like this. Very short indeed, and very easy to make a mistake.
Incidentally, these cars are called stock cars, but of course they are highly modified for racing. They do bear the manufacturer's label, but are a far cry from what you can buy in your dealer's showroom. A lot of interesting stories here today. I think particularly David Pearson in car number 2 in the Australian Chevrolet, who's a substitute driver for Dale Earnhardt, the rookie who was injured. David, of course, used to drive for the Wood Brothers, has won 8 times here, 2 Southern 500s and 6 Rebels, and I think perhaps maybe the sentimental favorite to win here today. The last lap by leader Donnie Allison was turned in 33.1 seconds, 148.5 miles per hour. Donnie in the lead, Bobby right behind him, Darrell Waltrip in 3rd, Richard Petty in 4th, David Pearson 5th, Bill Elliott 6th, and Dick Brooks is now 7th. Back for more racing in a moment. Bobby Allison starting to come into slower traffic now. Donnie still in the lead in the red car, and they slide by on either side of Jimmy Meade.
Well, I'll take the high road and you take the low road, the brothers said to themselves as they go into turn 3, keeping the same order. Donnie Allison still leading. And Richard Petty, he's come straight off of the racetrack, now out of pit lane, straight into the garage area.
That could be very serious for car number 43, Richard Petty. They didn't even bring it down pit lane. Let's see what happens. Up goes the hood here. That's bad. And there's Morris Petty running down to him, the crew chief. Oh, that is tough because Richard was hanging right in there in 4th place, right behind Darrell Waltrip. And all of a sudden, he's off the race course. Can you speculate on it?
Well, Richard Petty, of course, is on a radio, two-way radio to his crew chief, so therefore he knew that it might have been an electrical problem of some kind, so they very quickly got that repair done. But look at the time they're losing in that pit lane there. But there's your man. Look who's taking the lead, Bill.
Bobby Allison has passed brother Donnie for the lead. Darrell Waltrip is still in 3rd, but Neil Bonnet now has moved up into 4th place in place of Richard Petty, who's going to lose several laps to the leaders. Tough break for Richard. Let's find out from Jackie Stewart what was wrong with Petty's car.
Maurice, what happened to Richard?
There's a control box in there, costs about $125. It's just a bad piece, and it's running good. It'll be all right till that box quits.
So that little box, the ignition box in that car, was what caused the problem with Richard Petty. As the cars come by, the pace is still very fast, and we've got trouble up between 3 and 4. A car is in trouble, smashing against the wall in turn 4. It's car number 72, Jack. That is rookie Joe Milliken.
He seems to have come together with Harry Gant. He's getting down into the infield. He seems to be okay, but he came in contact very heavily. Isn't it amazing how strong these cars are? He must have hit that concrete wall, and the yellow flag goes out. He must have hit it, Bill, about 40 miles an hour. And look at the damage, but look how the car has stood up to it.
Milliken limping in under the first yellow flag of the day, and the drivers are getting a little bit of relief from this extremely high temperature today. High humidity, the equipment is strained, and so is the human body. Some of the drivers had an observation about the heat earlier.
It'll take its toll. There's no doubt about it. I hope that I'll be able to stand it. You know, I try to stay outdoors as much as I possibly can to stay used to this hot, humid weather, but I'm sure it's going to take its toll.
The humidity is so high, it's so hot, that the physical aspects can take over as well. You can lose enough moisture out of the body that you just can't make it up, that you can't drink enough, and you get kind of lightheaded, and sometimes they even have to have relief.
Affects me like it affects everybody else. It just makes it that much tougher on us. You know, it's usually tough on the car, but when it gets this hot, it just makes it that much tougher on the driver.
I kind of like the warm weather, and, you know, usually I can go pretty good when it's hot. So I hope that holds true today.
I'm in good shape. I've run hard everywhere I've been this year. I'm going to run hard today. But I know when this 500 miles is over, I'll be a worn-out 32-year-old man. I can't imagine being 42 and going through the same thing.
Heat and time involved is the most important part of the race. As far as physically work, getting out there and doing it ain't really that bad. It's just the time involved. And the heat is a big factor here. You might even see some guys taking relief today.
But right now, you're standing before the race. Your shirt is already wet from perspiration. You're not in the driver's suit, and you're not in the cabin of a race car.
Well, that's true. Yours the same way. You know, everybody's hot right now. It is hot. And, of course, if it wasn't hot here, it wouldn't be Darlington.
Speaking of heat, the pit crew of Joe Milliken is working up quite a sweat, trying to unbend all that metal that got torn up in the accident. Let's go down and find out what happened. Jackie?
What went on, Joe?
I don't know, Jackie. The car was running a little loose, and I went down in there and spun out. I hit the wall pretty hard, but Harry Gant hit me, too.
Some major sheet metal repairs to Joe Milliken's car. It's very important to get him back out in the race because, as you know, he is the leading candidate for the Rookie of the Year award. The green is out, and they're back racing again. And in the lead is Bobby Allison. Darrell Waltrip is right behind him. Bill Elliott has moved into third. Buddy Baker is now fourth, and Neil Bonnet is in fifth place. And they're back up to speed once again following that accident involving Harry Gant and Joe Milliken. Down the backstretch, and now Waltrip is putting a move on Bobby Allison and takes the lead.
Well, Darrell Waltrip, tremendously challenging driver, one of the young lions who've come across, really maturing over these years and really doing very well as Bobby. And Bobby Allison's hit the wall. He's got a Darlington straight well and truly on him, coming out of turn 4. Classic error, classic mistake here at Darlington. The racetrack narrows, and that's exactly what happened. In the draft of Darrell Waltrip, Bobby Allison's car went high on the racetrack and creased that wall.
And I'm sure that he has some bent metal on the right side, but it doesn't seem to be hampering him at all. He's keeping certainly right up with the same speed that Darrell Waltrip is. As they come by now, the home stretch, Bobby's actually moving up on Waltrip, and looks like he's going to try to pass. Nope, not this time. So Waltrip has the lead. Bobby Allison is second. Buddy Baker now has moved ahead of Bill Elliott into third place. Elliott is fourth. Neil Bonnet is fifth. And Donnie Allison, whose car is overheating, has dropped back into sixth place. Well, it's amazing, but Joe Milliken's car is back out with the racetrack. He lost about 12 laps to the leaders while they got all that sheet metal back into place. One thing is not in place, and that's the hood. It's running without a hood right now. Jack, maybe that'll help a little bit as far as the heat is concerned.
Certainly is, but we've got a situation now. And look at this. We've got Bobby Allison, car number 15, right alongside and past Darrell Waltrip in car number 88. There's Bobby Allison gets himself back in the lead.
Bobby Allison in the lead once again, and it's been jockeying back and forth between these two hot drivers this afternoon. Bobby Allison streaking down, and he's into the wall.
He came in contact with another car there. He's spinning wildly. He's trying to gain control. He's got it. He's almost got it. No, he goes down into the infield there. I'm sure he hasn't come in contact with anything, but my goodness, it was a close thing. He's got the yellow out here. A big spin for Bobby Allison. He's got the car going again. The car's all over the road. He's got a flat tire in his rear there, and our side, maybe the other side's flat as well, and he should be now heading towards pit lane, getting, and no, he stayed on the racetrack, Bill.
And a pretty good reason for that. If he can get by that start-finish line before the leaders, he will not lose the lap. Pretty cool customer is Bobby Allison after a terrifying spin. Jackie, let's see what happened up there between turns 3 and 4.
Bobby Allison, car number 15, going into turn 3 there. No trouble at all. Very clean without any problems. Then he comes up to this slower car here. That's H.B. Bailey. Now he's got past the car and suddenly he's come in contact. Bailey seemed to go up the hill. Now that car's in opposite lock. That's to say he's turning right into the skid. Turning towards the skid. Then he loses it and the car spins wildly. Remember, they're doing more than 150 miles an hour at that time. He tried to control it.
So it'll be all new rubber for Bobby Allison as he stays in the race. And as he comes in there, you can see that big gouge on the left rear side of the car where H.B. Bailey hit it. The yellow caution flag is out, and so we'll be returning for more of the Southern 500 shortly. Right now, they're 100. When we left you, Bobby Allison had hit the wall and had relinquished the lead to Darrell Waltrip. Well, Darrell Waltrip still has the lead, although it may not look that way on the race course because car number 2 is ahead of him. That's David Pearson. If Darrell Waltrip gets by him, that means that Darrell, and it looks like he may put a move on him here, everybody else, his nearest challengers, would be one lap down, and that's exactly what's happened. Darrell Waltrip has put a lap on David Pearson. So Waltrip has things really going for him today, and there is Buddy Baker trying to slide by Benny Parsons. That's for 3rd place, and Buddy is in 3rd place right now, but of course, he too is one lap down. Dale Yarborough, car number 11, is back out racing again, but he has had his problems today. Earlier, his engine dropped the valve, and they brought the car into the garage area. Would you believe this? They actually took that engine out and replaced it. All during this time, Cale was sitting in a car that he described to Jackie as being almost unbearable at 150 degrees. Officially, it took 21 minutes to take that engine out of this car and put a new one back in. But this crew, working doggedly, got him back down, and when the car was wheeled out of the garage area, a big roar went up from all the Cale Yarborough boosters. He was back out and racing once again. Truly miraculous. The defending Southern 500 champion. In the meantime, Donnie Allison's car had gone out of the race, and Donnie was taking some much-needed oxygen because they wanted him to stand by to replace Richard Petty. Richard's son, standing in the pit area to see what happened to his father, who had said on the radio that he was feeling groggy. Well, as it turned out, he almost passed out when he came out of the car. He was very pale, and Donnie Allison wedged himself in the window and got back out in car number 43. In the meantime, Richard got his helmet off and his cold pack on his head off, which didn't seem to be doing him too much good, and got to an area to get some oxygen, and the medics came over to take a look at him. His brother, Morris, got people away from him so he could get a little bit of breathing room. And Richard sprawled out on the ground as the medics took his blood pressure and got some oxygen to him and also a cold pack on his chest. Over in the other garage area, Bobby Allison was also having some problems as the photographers were having a field day shooting all of the attrition that was due to the heat. Bobby was sprawled out, also taking oxygen. Neil Bonnet was in place of him in his car. Neil had earlier gone out with some problems of his own. And so this entire afternoon, it seems, has been filled with problems of one kind or another for the drivers. As a precautionary measure, they brought the ambulance in and took Bobby Allison to the field hospital. Ricky Rudd, a younger member of this racing crew, Rookie of the Year 2 years ago, was having his problems, and Jackie Stewart talked to him about the heat.
Ricky, you're obviously exhausted. You've had a difficult time. Your eyes are still glazed. How does the heat exhaustion come on?
Well, it just kind of thing. It just kind of wears on as the day gets longer, and you know, especially if the car is not driving just right, and you got to stay on top of the car and fight it. You know, you're all the time working the wheel and the gas, the brake, all the whole time you're in a corner. And when the heat gets to you, you know, you can't think clearly, and the car more or less starts driving you, and takes you where it wants to go instead of you driving it. That's a good way to get somebody hurt by so I figure it's time to pull it in and park it.
Obviously, a situation of potential danger to not only you, but to the other drivers.
Yeah, you know, I really didn't know where I was, or, you know, was so lightheaded and dizzy that I was at the point I could have passed out on the racetrack, so I didn't want to take a chance I hurt myself or hurt somebody else either, so I parked it.
And so with these temperature and humidity extremes, it's easy to see why we've had such a wild afternoon. So many drivers taking relief. Our race leader, Darrell Waltrip, has seemingly been immune to the heat. He continues to set a very hot pace. He is one full lap ahead of David Pearson in car number 2. And David Pearson has about a 300-yard lead on car number 27. That's Benny Parsons, who has moved into 3rd when Buddy Baker has had to go into the pits now under the green for fuel and also right side rubber. Now it's good to see that Richard Petty is back on his feet, looking okay, Jackie.
He's certainly recovered. Of course, he's a pretty fit man, although he had stomach troubles last year. Richard Petty looking a little peaky still, but looking to get back into his own car. And look, we've got a situation at Darrell Waltrip. He's all over the racetrack. It looks like he might have had a puncture there because the car was going through a particularly peculiar way of handling there. He didn't hit the top rail. He either very skillfully controlled that, or he certainly got himself in situations there where he got out of it just by the skin of his teeth. Now he's pulling away and coming round towards the pits again.
Well, for the second time in today's race, the leader has had a mishap. Earlier, Bobby Allison in the lead was touched by H.B. Bailey and went into the wall and eventually retired from the race. And now Darrell Waltrip, who had built up almost a mile-and-a-half lead on his nearest competitor, David Pearson, has had a spin and is coming around. He has lost his lap lead, but he is still ahead of Pearson on the race course under the yellow. However, Darrell will have to certainly come in because he has flat-spotted his tires in that spin. That may open the door for David Pearson on the Southern 500. Everyone has pitted after Darrell Waltrip's spin, and now the cars are all bunched up. As a result of those pit stops, Pearson is right up there in the lead, and David, under the green, goes into turn one in the lead. Waltrip is still in second place with Benny Parsons in third. Look at David Pearson streaking.
He really seems to be able to pull it out here as he drifts around that corner there. It's quite often the case when a race car comes into the pits for a tire change or anything else, they can jack the suspension a little bit, make the car handle to the driver's desire, and therefore be able to take a lead. Right now, remember, on the same racetrack, the same opposition, the same temperature, and yet he seems to be able to just take it away.
David Pearson hasn't seemed to suffer any from the heat this afternoon, and it's really taken its toll on some of the major drivers. Pearson now lengthening his lead to a couple of 100 yards, and Waltrip's in trouble again.
He's really spinning out that smoke as Strasburg, and look at the other cars behind, miraculously avoiding it there. I would have to give great compliments to their driving skills because they got their cars slowed down there, saw through that dense tire smoke there, a way to either stop or get around the other vehicles. He's still weaving there. He's still having trouble. You know, he could be having a heat problem because he doesn't seem to be really getting himself together there, although I must admit that neither would I if I had just spun at more than 150 miles an hour.
Well, let's see, Jackie, as we look at it from a different angle, if we can tell what happened.
Well, looking at the car there was no puff of smoke coming out of the car before the spin. You couldn't see anything dropping onto the racetrack, as sometimes can happen, oil or water or anything of that kind. It looked really like Darrell had just plain lost it, but who knows?
Well, whatever happened, that second spin by Darrell Waltrip is going to make it mighty rough for the leading NASCAR driver this year to win the Southern 500. The yellow caution flag is out, and we're going to take a bit of a break. We'll be Bobby Allison coming out of the driver's lounge gives us the OK sign. Quite a far cry from his complete exhaustion from heat just a short time ago. Now, back on the race course, it's David Pearson in car number 2, leading this race with 4 laps to go. And Jackie has been miraculous today. He has about a half a lap lead on number 17 there, the red car. That's Bill Elliott, the young 23-year-old from Georgia, who's also run quite a race. And in third place, Jerry Labonte, whom you'll recall ran 4th here a year ago.
Well, David Pearson, I have to take my hat off to him because he's not the youngest driver in the race. He's a grandfather. He's called the Silver Fox, and well deserved that title today because he stopped his prey very well. Others have dropped out. They've been having exhaustion, but there, David Pearson, still on the racetrack, still driving like the champion that he is.
Incidentally, Benny Parsons, who had been running second, had to pit just a few laps ago to take on fuel. He's been dropped all the way back to 5th place now. Buddy Baker is running in 4th, and that might even have been higher for Buddy, except that he was penalized 1 lap for passing the safety car when the yellow was out after Darrell Waltrip's first spin. 2 laps to go now as David Pearson peels into turn number 1. Remarkably, in second place is Bill Elliott, number 17. Highest place so far this year has been a 4th. He's never won a race. And Jerry Labonte, who finished 4th a year ago, is running 3rd. I think that's a remarkable performance by these 2 young drivers, Jackie.
Tremendous performance, but I'd have to take my hat off most, I suppose, to David Pearson, the old fox himself. And there he goes, taking the white flag with only 1 lap to go. Drivers have fainted, they've been collapsing, they've had pneumonia sniffs, they've had oxygen, but That man, all he's had all day is a steering wheel.
Nobody has ever won more races here at Darlington than 44-year-old David Pearson. He has won 8 previous races, 2 Southern, 6 Rebels, and is on his way to race win number 9 at Darlington, the toughest place in the world to win. This will be his 104th career win. He's won over $2 million, and he's earned every penny of the winning purse today, and there's the checker for David Pearson. So David Pearson comes across the winner. In second place, getting the checkered flag right now is Bill Elliott, and right behind him, Terry Labonte. And pulling up alongside David Pearson as they go down the backstretch, his friendly foe of many races, Cale Yarborough, who I think says something to him there, maybe a little congratulations. And for the first time today, Cale goes by David Pearson. Cale will finish 31 laps behind. That was because of the 21-minute engine change earlier in the race. So it's David Pearson, Bill Elliott, Terry Labonte, Buddy Baker, Benny Parsons, the top 5. By virtue of the 11th place finish, Darrell Waltrip still holds on to his lead over Richard Petty and Bobby Allison in the point standings. Bill Fleming, together with Jackie Stewart, saying so long from a sweltering Southern 500.